Tene tatari chenamba kankanji ngaranso ta chu nyomdo nyomslen juke kokap zangbo top tene pe gawu chongla tene kashi chenamba thorimbo nimpe kashi thorimbo nimpe ba marite yinaya susola leka mambo yeba tenzo yukne tene tambi chula deba tang mugu tang zendru tang tenpe go ne chu nyamni nawa la pepa la tuji chi yugi.
Rinpoche is very happy to have this opportunity to practice the Dharma with all of you. And so some of you have come here from a long way away. And some of you haven't come from so far, but you all have put aside your work and come here out of faith and devotion to study and practice the Dharma.
Tene tatanda ngarazo tujin tardo dojin chungtuma sonde che denge yenla ten tikapsala tepata muguji ni surwatap naro che.
And now, as usual, we will chant the short Vajradhara lineage prayer. And as we chant, please generate faith and devotion. Dorje chanchen de lo narodam marva mila
In accordance with the capabilities and diverse aspirations of sentient beings, I ask you to turn the wheel of Dharma, of the greater, lesser, or conventional vehicles.
Tene ta tanda ngarange chitang chenamba chuela depa chimbo jege yabata tina ne mixalto ta chaja chimbo la mopa chimbo ji tene chaja chimbo ge tei mangbo ta tenga nguma shubare la chaja chimbo dawe wezer chaja chimbo nyume teni salwa tene ngidan janso chukun subsu ta tenzo shubare la tene tari marik mesel shuju chunga te pe kalwa sangpo chang.
In general, you all have great faith and devotion in the Dharma. And in particular, you all have requested many teachings on the Great Seal, Mahamudra. So on the Great Seal. And so Rinpoche has had the opportunity to explain to you the teachings from the moonbeams of Mahamudra, the ocean of certainty, the clarifying the natural state, and pointing out the Dharma body. And so today, to have the opportunity to teach you all the eliminating the darkness of ignorance is a very great fortune.
Tene ta teyang jitang shoja chenpo te ta chepratum papa yinpar masi pa ge tene dongo ke mengo ke jentenzo manyampa zomdo yung masi ta tanda ngaranzo chenpa tarto mixal ke karmapa Wangchuk Dorje ke ta shoja chenpo ke tri sum Tati nang la tene gom kande se jab go ke le tangpo pe kande se gom go ke yapa tene hine la kande job go ke yapa lontong la kande job go ke yapa hine tong lontong ke gom yakpo che jula che ne tene te ya po ndamba te ta ya jezong to tong ke tap la kande che go ke yapa di kap la tene je jenge da parchi da bo je chong na ge da 골산다고 정나 대 칸디지 살고게 야바다 텐조베 살보 요아레라다 디나네 단다 마리 메셀라야 데타르도 얄 살보 다텐데 요아레.
Of course, the instructions on the Great Seal are really superior. The meditation of the Great Seal is a superior type of meditation, and the instructions for it are excellent. These instructions have been maintained without any deterioration over the time, and so we are very fortunate to be able to study them. Of all of these instructions, there are the 3 different texts that were written by the Ninth Karmapa, Wangchuk Dorje. And in these texts, it explains clearly how to practice the Great Seal. What is it that the beginners need to do? How is it that we should generate the tranquility or shamatha meditation? How is it that we need to do insight or vipassana meditation? And when we have given rise to good tranquility and good insight meditation in our beings, then how is it that we can enhance our practice? What is it that we can do to make our practice better? And if there are any different obstacles that arise in our practice, obstacles or problems or difficulties that arise, what is it that we need to do to clear these obstacles away, to dispel these obstacles? And so the text that we are talking about now, the eliminating the darkness of ignorance, is just as good as all of these in terms of explaining how to do this.
Tene ta tanda jitang ge xiaoxin ge ti tenzo tangji la tangbo tumong ge ngro ye tene tumong ma yin be ngro ye la so pa rimba yin do song yo arete yin ya misal ge mari mesel la tene tangbo ta tumong ma yin be ngro ye tene ti je so tumong ge ngro ye tene rimba yindar ta tende songare la tene te yang song gupe junsen te tanda ta jitang tumo ma yinpe ngandro yibo te la ta nyamni kalchewa rabo je tempe che do la songa yinpa da la tene ta teacher na tene ta tenga jitang zo ta che namba nyamni jeju ge cherdo je hine ge korda lontong ge korde tene kalchewa rabo je hine nundro te tsam mayu ban rabo re la tene ta te la nyamni yapo je ro kapso tene ta ti nyamni te yapo yor tang ya ge tab la tene nundro te kalchembo si hyu na pento chembo re 펜토 쳔보 홍사리 다지당 근로 냥스 만원발라 힌네통 황통 간나야 제프르히로 요 마레티 이나야 흔로티 고니 솔와타 대바당 무구지 나 텔라티니 검텔라야 찌라보제 테 대바당 무군 펠 와라티니 신라민족 다티세드
Now, these texts on Mahamudra, on the Great Seal, all begin with a description of the ordinary foundation practices, the ordinary preliminary practices, and then the uncommon or the particular preliminary practices for this. But however, in our text that we're discussing now, it is a little bit different. First, in the eliminating the darkness of ignorance, first, the uncommon, the particular preliminaries are taught. And then, secondly, the ordinary preliminaries are taught. And the reason for this is because the preliminary practices are especially important, it seems. It seems that the reason is because the practices are very important. Now, in our practice, what is of course most important is to generate the tranquility meditation and the insight meditation. These are what is most important, and the bulk of the text describes the tranquility and the insight meditation. But however, here it is also important that we have the preliminary practices, because if these are good, then they will help improve our actual practice. They'll improve our tranquility and our insight meditation. If you are able to generate good insight and good tranquility and good insight meditation without doing the preliminaries, that is fine. But it is often very helpful to do the preliminaries first, and then, because by doing the preliminaries, then it helps you generate faith. It helps you generate devotion. And then it helps increase your faith and devotion, and through that you can receive the blessings. And so for this reason, these particular preliminary practices are especially important.
Tene tateyang tatinane tatanda chutin teng tangbo tela tangbo jamro tang semchi ni de tempare la tene teyang tsik tene ngarang dreba majana somsom kariri sena jitang ta tsik de tene inji keto la juriya pa tene te ngarang sugun dan toge ya pa dan ne ta jitang tsik den zo kodebo ya pa ta tende la tene tsik tene ta tanda misal ma yuna ya digre sambatabre la tene te ya je zubo debo ya pa hina tene chon sal na pe luji kawaji pa la tene sen la tepa to muguji pa la tene chinap topa yin picherna chon salwa te gopa chimpure la tene ya je zubo madewa la sopa taba je yin ta chon sal tugu mendu ta ngaran chu nyamne chi tugu mendu sa ne sem la sempa jo andrapo ta sem pampandrapo gugu mare tene te la zo tene nang semje 대바도 무그제 바데 갈지와 인베잖아 되는 거거네 잠론데 되는 mikpasi 되는 대바도 무그지나 되는 대양 렌족이 와래라 되는 티처나 지당게 다 괜찮은 버지 넘버 som라 대바도 무그지 주대 갈지와래.
The first of the particular preliminaries is the going for refuge and generating the mind of enlightenment. Now, this is described in what is called the first Dharma session, or the first session. And so these is what we call chapters in this book. They are called sessions. So in the first session, what is described is going for refuge and generating the mind of enlightenment. And the words of this are really quite clear. So Rinpoche thought it would be, of this session are quite clear. So Rinpoche thought it would be okay not to go through the words in particular, because the reason for this is that they're easy to understand. They're clearly written. They have been translated into English. And so you all can get a copy of the English translation, and you can read this and understand it, and there shouldn't be anything that you can understand. And so rather, Rinpoche is going to give a more general description of this. And so in doing the practice of refuge and the mind of enlightenment, if you are healthy, then you can do prostrations. And by doing prostrations and going through a lot of effort with your body, this creates a lot of faith. It creates a lot of devotion. And then that will help and then it will increase your faith and devotion. And so this leads to a very good result. If, however, you are not so healthy, then you should not be discouraged or depressed and thinking, oh, I can't do prostrations, how terrible. You shouldn't think to yourselves that you don't have this opportunity or be discouraged in any way. And the reason for that is that what is most important when you're doing the prostrations is to is to do it with wholeheartedly, and so to use your speech to recite the prayer, and to use your mind to do the visualization. And as you do that, then you can generate the faith and devotion, and it will increase and expand, increase and develop, and then you will also be able to receive the blessings.
Tene ta teyang tanda ngaranso japsun rohen depaton muguji ne solwa tapare la. Tene ta tige depaton muguji ne solwa tapeke korla. Tene kasin ngama meji ke dwadang songla. Tene ngama lo chunchung ke kapsula tene ya la solwa tapke ware. Tene tanda namba sanji bi chugo la hyupa kapsula yung solwa tapke ware. Solwa tapa nyi la chepar kandi ware si tison la. Tene te la ngarange ti trewa ti kor la che nrekhi te si jab na. Tene te hipcha ndabo che tse na pento chenpong sare nda somsong la. Tene ta chitang ke namba sanji pa mayin be chulu mambu ke la solwa tapke ware. Tene ta tege miyul ndapo te ta zo je sempa zangbo ta tene kanga cheki chela nepa mepa chepa yapo ndoya ke cherto tene ta tanda ngaranso la je semte la je sempa zangbo yung ya ke cherto tene jitin je komda hla cheki zogi ware tene ngaranzo tene hlati nyi na tene deji toge yabata dewala kege yabata tene hlati tuk ma nyi na tene ngarang la te se kachen rapo popa tene nepan rapo popa ta tende yungi yaware la teacher na ngaranzo tene jelam yapo si goge yabata tene hlala tepata mugi yapo chi hlala solwa tap goge yabata tende sungi yaware la tene teya tap chepar jinre tene meti ki che hlati nyipi ki chetula solwa tapa yin te nyipi ki chetula ngarang jelam yapo chi ki yin ngarang ke kulhong ta chamba ta nyingi chi ki yin che ki chela samba zangpo chi ki yin samba tapo chi pe ke tap te chepar tumpa pare te tati hla chi yepa la hla tin jitin ki sepon rapo yepa la gungi yore.
And so when we pray and recite these prayers and develop faith and devotion, we are actually reciting a prayer. And so the other night, someone asked Rinpoche a question about what is it that we pray to? How is it that we pray? And the question was that when we were all young and we were in other religions and we prayed to God or to some sort of deity, at that point we made prayers. And now that we are Buddhists, we also pray. And so what is the distinction between these two different types of prayer? Rinpoche thought that this is a very important question, a question that is very important to answer, and would like to speak about it in a bit of detail. And so, in general, when the non-Buddhists pray, there are many different non-Buddhist religions that all pray to their own different types of deities. And so, when they pray to these gods, often they want to generate a kind heart, to be kind, to learn how to be good, to learn how to be loving. They want to be free from harm. They don't want to cause other people harm, and so they pray for this reason. And in particular, they often see the God to whom they are praying as the creator of the world. And so they see this God as the creator of the world, and they feel that if they can pray to this God who is the creator of the world and please this God and do something that makes this God happy, then things will be happy. Their mind will be peaceful, they will be happy. If, on the other hand, they do not please the God, or they displease the God, then there might be some problems, there might be some difficulties that happen for them. Something might hurt them. And so for this reason, it is important for them to praise. And so they recite the prayers in order to please the God. They think to themselves, if we pray to God, then it will please God. And if it pleases God, then things will turn out well for me and things will be good. And so this is, in general, the reason why non-Buddhists pray.
Tene ta namba sanji be tawala yena tene ngaranso ge deji don dungal de tene chige hlaje la rollege yo mare nang ta ngaranso la rollege yo la tene te ya nekap don tartu ni ge na ne nekap ga on de sena ta susu ge le zangin sa bala tene le zangbo sa na ngara deji thoge yo bada tene le ngemba yena nepala so basena dungan jungi ya pate teacher na tene yen la la ro lege yo mare rang la ro lege yo nekap ga on de sena ya tartu go on de sena ya tene ngaran so ta je dungan tamchi ge zawate nyemong barel nyemong bate tene pangju te kandi si panggu gresena te pangji ge nyembo te chilo la mepa ngaransu nang sanla tene sanje ge nimbo yore sanje ge nimbo yopa la tene te gam te ngand jorna tene jan tenzo pang yen tenzo tobgi yore la tene teacher na zo rang tene nyamlen ta rang jelon ra lege yore re te yinaya nekap ta te tabu ge lam te la tene lam te yang takpa che khipe cherdo tene Kagyu Rinpoche namba som se sanje chamden de te ngarang ge lam tempa po ta ti ge ngarang de chi dan tempe ge lam te tempa po yimba la tempa po te yin sampe ichi chi be la sanje chamden de la tempe tsulji chapsun rowa ta ti kong ge lam te ngarang yang takpa yin sampa ge ichi chi 대바지 무그지 그게요. 다때 콩게 람 카리템 바르세나 콩게 담비 추에템 바르라. 추에데 나란속에 냠슬링 그게요. 냠슬렘 바데 람 텔라테네 테네 데부터 거 바임 베잖아. 추라 람지술지 잡스로 와스. 테네 다 대견도 되게 조데 겐든rel라. 겐든라 타 나랑게 네카 람 드럽 마히바. 추 drupala zendruji matupa tene lam norwandapo tende yung kapsula tene ngaranta nyamdo chu drupu to tenzu ge tene ngalchin tenzo par sal tenchin tenzo drup tende imbe cherna tene genden la lam drupu to kutsulji tapsun roha.
In our Buddhist view, however, happiness and suffering does not come from something outside ourselves. It does not come from a God who is outside of ourselves. Rather, it comes from ourselves. It is dependent upon ourselves that we can be happy or have suffering. And so this is in terms of either our temporary situation or the ultimate situation. And in terms of the temporary situation, then whether we have temporary happiness or whether we have suffering depends upon our karma. It depends upon our actions, that which we do. And when we do good actions and perform good karma, then we experience the happy results. When we do bad actions, when we commit evil karma, then we have suffering that comes upon us. And so our temporary happiness and suffering depends upon ourselves. It depends upon our karma and ourselves. And also in terms of the ultimate, if you ask what is the root of all the suffering that we experience, that root is the afflictions. So the question, if the root is the afflictions, then do we need to get the antidote for that? Is the remedy for that something that comes from somewhere else? The remedy for that is not something that we get from anywhere else. The remedy for all of the afflictions that we have is actually the Buddha nature that is within ourselves. It is not something that we need to get from anywhere, but rather it is the Buddha nature that we have within ourselves. And so as we develop and as the Buddha nature becomes manifest, then all of the qualities are developed and all of the faults are abandoned or discarded. For this reason, it is from ourselves. However, although this comes from ourselves, it comes from our own practice. But we don't always know exactly how to practice or what to do. And so for this reason, we go for refuge in the three precious jewels. In order to know the path that we have to follow in order to practice, we have to go for refuge in the three precious jewels. And in particular, we go for refuge in the Buddha as our teacher. We do not know what to do, and we do not know how to practice, and it is the Buddha who teaches us how to practice. We go for refuge in the Buddha as the teacher who tells us how we have to practice, what we need to do in order to improve ourselves, in order to better ourselves. And so in this way, we go for refuge in the Buddha as the teacher. And then we also go for refuge in the Dharma as the path. And in going for refuge in the Dharma as the path, that means that we are going for refuge in the Dharma that the Buddha taught as the path that we need to follow. And so we follow that path. And so we go for refuge in the Dharma as the path. And we also go for refuge in the Sangha as our companions upon the path. So sometimes when we are, sometimes we might find ourselves getting a bit lazy. We might find ourselves having difficulties. We might go down a wrong path. And when we do, there are the members of our Sangha who help us become diligent or to find the right way to practice. And so in this way, it is the Sangha that is our companions upon the path. So we go for refuge in the Sangha as our companions on the path.
Tene ta teacher na ta chitang number sanji ba jige on de sena Kagyu Lineage number somla japsun ro ta tene te na ne ngaran su song ho doji tipe la tene ta zawa som sung ge wa la zawa som indu te la ta ngaran su ge jamdu su yin ta hyam ba ta tangka tene jamdu su yin gamba 다 딘데 게 갑라 조 우라 신라지 자와 라마데 요게 요아레라 테니 데 지당게 당가라서 넘버 상지 비추게 나니 갈치휴데 상지 좀 된데 임바 레데 이나야 다송호 라마데 갈치모 난게 요아레라 라마데 갈치모 임베 준신데 지당게 추 신랍세게 신랍 생긴데야 당가라서 제 추가 누반다고 추 두프가 누발라데네 추가 라 대바지와 somba 상주그 샘지와 점바지와 닌제지와 데네니 히랍지와 라소베 히랍 검중그 히랍 라소바 지위게 누바텔라 진압세그렐라 디 진압데 지당그 상지에게 추숨발라데네 용기 요레데 얘나야 라라 소소라 데네 상지니 태가 용기 요 sonji ni lama namla jitni tini rang tsaw lama ni tini rang la tobgi yorella tini junsin teacher na rang tsaw lama la ichi yapu je gu yore tene ichiche gugi wara tati chu de zawe lami tembi chu de sanji chi tembi chu yong takpa ji re te nyamlin che na ngarang drevu tog re sombege ichiche gugi wara la tene junsin teacher na tene sena je zawa lama sene ngarang so kalchi hyun rabo che gi wara.
And so in general in Buddhism, we go for refuge in the three jewels. That is a general Buddhist practice. But here in the secret mantra Vajrayana, we also go for refuge in the three roots. And so these are depicted in the refuge trees. You can get tankas or pictures of the refuge tree, and you can look at those. And if you look at a picture of the refuge tree, then you will see that in the middle of the refuge tree there is our Lama, who is the root of blessings. Now, in general, in Buddhism, of course, it is the Buddha who is the primary teacher. But although it is the Buddha who is the primary teacher, we receive the blessings of the lineage from the Lama. And we need these blessings in order to practice. We need when we receive blessings, these blessings are like the power of the Dharma. They are like the power potential of the Dharma that we have. And we receive these from our teacher. We need the power and the blessings of the Dharma in order to be able to generate good meditation. Excuse me. We need the power and the blessings of the Dharma in order to be able to generate good meditation, in order to be able to generate loving kindness, in order to be able to generate compassion, in order to be able to generate full knowing or wisdom, prajna. We also need to have the blessings. And so, excuse me. So we need to receive the blessings in order to receive these. It is when we receive the blessings that we can generate loving kindness, and that we can generate the full knowing that is born, full knowing or prajna, that is born of contemplation, or the full knowing or prajna that is born out of meditation. And these blessings we receive primarily from our lamas, from our teachers. Now, the blessings originate from the Buddha, but they come down through the lineage of lamas. They have been passed down in an unbroken lineage of lamas to our lama, and it is our lama from whom we receive these blessings. And so we need to pray to this lama. We need to have confidence in the lama. We need to have the confidence that what the lama is teaching is correct, that it is true. And we need to have the confidence that by practicing it can benefit us and that it can bring us to the result. And so for this reason, it is most important to receive these blessings.
Tene ta teacher na jip lama tangki da tene zawa lama ta te sinaji zawa lama la gongi ware la tene te yendo ta tombi chu ga on de sena jitang ge chu de ja chen bu yin ba la tene ta ngaran song ho do ji te pe lo la chu je yiram je la la no ba la gom ni nyam ni je ba yin bi cher na tene ngu du ji zawa yiram 우줍세는 우소 단 레븐더보 토파티게 자와티 이름절라이 냠린라티니 토파임 비쳤나 우줍지 자와 이름 세트니 티게 다베나 젠힌 동보 여가 나이에 우라 진라지 자와 라마 넌도 우줍지 자와 이름 절라텐소 공급이 준생이라고 다 된대지.
And so it is in order to receive these blessings that we meditate upon all the lineage lamas and the root lamas. And so we meditate upon those. Now we also need to go for refuge in the Dharma. And the Dharma is something that is quite vast and expansive. But in our secret mantra Vajrayana, we have the Yidam meditational deity who is like the root of accomplishment, whom we call the root of accomplishment, is what we call the Yidam deities. And we call them this because it is by meditating on a deity that we can attain the accomplishment of the Dharma. We meditate upon one deity, and then we can accomplish, or we can attain the siddhis. And so this is why the Yidam deities are called the root of accomplishment. And in our visualization of the refuge tree has like five main branches. And in the center branch is where the root of blessings, the Lama, is. And in the branch in front of us is where we visualize the root of accomplishment, the Yidam deities. We meditate on them being there because they're so important.
Tene ta tejendu sumbate trinity zawa chujung sumri yorela. Tene chitang ta ngaran sol karigu yore se da tombichu nyamsul lembe kapsula ngarjin salwa ngarjin tong parji salwa tene tinchin changwa ta tende gugi yorela. Tene pop gending lom dubu tu se pe kapsula tene ngaran mihiba tenzo lap tene norwa tenzo sal 다 텐데시는 갈진 살게 요리 때 있는 때 마인베 매 마인베 테네 산지다 장주 semba 단다 메 루틴 tab 마인바 테네 멍한베 인수 유바 다 텐데 요레라 테네 데남라 솔와타 텐레 쫄나 데남지 파르지 살와타 테네 틴지 drupa tende nangi yorela tene tela trilne ji zawa chujung se trilne jol se tangala ropa naru ji se hyo hye tapa ne solwa ta tende se du ta trilne ji zawa chujung sunga yorela tene trilne ji zawa chujung te je parchi salwe ka hlaim be cherna je kahi true number dabo ta tende mambu yorela tene te tabo gomne japsun ro atela tene ji zawa chujung te tene zawa som te tene kenchu som tong zawa som te trupla ta japsun ro yore.
The third of the three roots is the root of activity, the Dharma protectors. And so, in general, when we practice, we need to dispel all the obstacles and difficulties, and we need to be able to assemble all the favorable conditions. And so the Sangha, the human Sangha that we have, helps us to dispel any difficulties and obstacles by teaching us things that we do not know. They help us by helping us overcome our laziness. They help us overcome all the problems that we have. And this is what the Sangha, the human Sangha that we go for refuge in, does. But there are also beings that take a non-human form. They do not have human bodies. And these are the Dharma protectors who are in the invisible expanse. And they can help us dispel obstacles and practice the Dharma. And so in order for them to do that, we need to exhort them to activity, or encourage them to be to their activity, which means that we pray to them and ask them to help us. And so we pray to them, and they can help dispel any problems that we have. And so when we pray to them and help them dispel, because we sometimes we pray to them in order to ask them to dispel the obstacles, then they often take a rather wrathful or fierce aspect. So these are the Dharma practitioners who are the root of activity. And so in this way we have these three different roots: the root of blessings, the Lama; the root of accomplishment, the Yidam; and the root of activity, the Dharma protectors, for the three roots. And then we also have the three jewels. And so this means that we have 6 sources of refuge.
Tene ta tela lam lopate lam manuru chetula ta lam yang ta pa sanji chi sum lam tene te yang song do ji tip lam ne tam bi chu te nyam salam bala tene rang te pa to mu pel tene samba ma da pa to lota la so pa tal ve ki cherto ta rang tene shop bam sal tene jam rombom den ta tinde chege yore la tene te long lopa le chepran chepa jam ro sung yore tene te je su jam ro te la long memba le chepran chepa semchi sung yore la tene te jam ro ge je la semchi chege yore semchi du te la ta ngarang ge che chitang ge ta ranging ge machu ba ji yung gu yore te yena yung chu ma ma yin pa te ngarang so su chi wala tombo ni ni ma chi we che na tene tombo chu ni ngarang ge semchi tamchi te dan che ge yin semchi tamchi dungal le chap ge yin semchi tamchi dewala ke ge yin sambata bu ge semchi ne tene remji chu ma ma yin be semti je war njur wa yin be che na song chun chu to semchi ba sung ke yore.
We go for refuge for these in order to prevent ourselves from going down mistaken paths. We go for refuge in the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha. They teach us the correct path. They prevent us from going down the wrong path. And so in this way, we then generate faith, and we develop faith and devotion. And in order to do this, we then do the 100,000 prostrations, and we recite the refuge prayer. And by doing this, this generates the faith and devotion, and this prevents us from going down wrong or mistaken paths. Following that, we also need to generate the mind of enlightenment in order to keep ourselves from going down lower paths. And when we generate the mind of enlightenment, or bodhicitta, it is important that we do this. It is important to develop an uncontrived mind of enlightenment, one that we do not have to contrive. That is the type of mind of enlightenment that we need. But we are all beginners, and as beginners, it is very difficult to generate that uncontrived, and so we have to start out by generating a contrived mind of enlightenment. And so for that reason, we sort of contrive a mind, and we think to ourselves, I am going to generate the mind of enlightenment. I am going to work for the benefit of all sentient beings. I am going to provide refuge for all sentient beings. I am going to protect all sentient beings from suffering. And so we have this contrived mind of enlightenment that we generate. And then out of that contrived mind of enlightenment, the uncontrived mind of enlightenment will naturally arise. And so we so this is how we generate the mind of enlightenment.
Tene tate lam membale chepran chepa semchi te jamru semchi ni te sungre la tene te go ne tate nundro tatangbo jamru ta semchi ni te gom tene tate go ne nyamslemba te ta gom te ta chutin tangbo ndabo nang yo. Tene te je su chuntin nipa te ta doji sempe gamde re la. Tene doji sempe gamde te ya ta kamdar doji sempe chiyo la gam. Tene te la tene didib jang tsul te salbur song yo re la. Tene te ya jitang tandang aranso ta je chu nyamni yapo je top kuki yo re. Chu nyamni sepa la tene kapka landre gam te la chi ndabu yapo chi tani kompel tundro gu yore. Te kompel tundro la parchi senke te tene ngaranso la ta rang senchi tento dripa ndabu ta mangbu yore la. Dripa te kandi yore sena drip nukki te namba nyi yore. Dikpa ta dripa sena. Ta dikpa ta dripa nyi se tu. Dikpa sena tene rangi chay lungak hei som chi go ne. Tene kuhung nyamba chepa, Tene jepa ngenpa sepa, ngaki tene jepa tsiksup la sopa nepa, ta tindegi shawa ngenpa ta jepa ngenpa sepa la, tene rangi le ngenpa sa ikapa te. Te rangi le chindevu imbichirna, tene le chindevu te, ta rangi tena menyuwa imbichirna. Tege ta tambichu, nyamlin chepa ta, nyamtu chepar chen ta, tingenzen chepar chen chewa la, partu chega yuwa la. Ti chirna, dikpa ti jangu ka yapa che. Tene nipa tela dripa sikirela. Dripa sena, tene dripa tela chitang ngaranso semte, tene nyemompa mambu yapa. Tene namto mambu yapa. Nyemompa, chitang nyemompa maina yung namto mambu yapa. Namto mambu ke tene pe ka ne, tene tingenze hinen rapo che yina yung jie ma chukpa rapo. Tene ta te yendo hlantong ke yihi yina yung, tene chi ma hipa, ti maripa mombi drip depa rapo, ta tende yungi yuwa la. Tene te tabu ke chirna, ti dik drip jangya ti pe kal che yuwa.
And so this is the teaching on how to develop the mind of enlightenment. And so here we've had the teachings on the practice of going for refuge and generating the mind of enlightenment that have been taught. These are the first of the preliminary practices, and this is the first of the Dharma sessions. The second of the Dharma sessions is the meditation on Vajrasattva, or Dorje Sempa in Tibetan. And so this meditation on Vajrasattva is a meditation of visualizing Vajrasattva above the crown of your head and reciting the mantra, and thus purifying yourself. And this is described in the text very clearly. The words are clear and easy to understand. And so this is also very important, and the reason is that we need to have good meditation practice. We need to have good, what we call equipoise. We need to develop good equipoise, good practice, and in order to develop that, we need to be free of any obstacles or any problems. And the obstacles that might arise are the different types of obscurations that we have. And so we have these different obscurations. We primarily have what we call the misdeeds and the obscurations. So the misdeeds and the obscurations are the two different types of obstacles we have, and we need to purify them. Now, the misdeeds, these are things that we have done with our body, speech, and mind. These are primarily bad actions, bad behavior of our body, speech, and mind. So whether we behave badly, do wrong things, hurt people with our bodies, or whether we say harsh and unpleasant words, or speak ill or of others, and so forth, or whether we harbor any ill thoughts in our mind. These are the misdeeds that we have, the misdeeds of our body, speech, and our mind. And these are all, because of the actions of our body, speech, and mind, we have accumulated karma. Now, this karma is something that obscures us and prevents us from, this karma is something that we have accumulated, and it will ripen in our beings. And when it ripens, then it will prevent us from developing good tranquility meditation. It will prevent us from developing deep holding or samadhi. It will prevent us from developing this deep holding or samadhi in our beings. And so it is something that we need to purify. It is something that we need to get rid of. Likewise, we have the obscurations. And the obscurations are the different afflictions that we have, and then also the various different types of thoughts that we have. And so we have these two different types of we have these two different types of obscurations. And if we have a lot of afflictions, or if we have a lot of thoughts in our mind, then they will disturb our minds. And if our minds are disturbed like that, then we will not be able to generate the deep holding, the samadhi, that we need to generate. And if we will not be able to come to know the things that we need to know. And so we need to be able to purify ourselves of these misdeeds and obscurations.
Tene ta tiki dikpa jangwa la, cherto dikpa tang, dripa jangwa la, cherto tanda nyembo top yesin kindrapo, ta tene sungi yore la. Tene te yang zo nyepa jepa, ta te la te si sen magana. Te yapo mundu samna tene te ramsong pang tuwi yore. Te pe yapo yin za chenpo yin samna te pang tuwi yore mare la. Te sen nang do mambo yepa te dripa tang, dikpa tenzu yapo mendo sampe kahong jepan rabo tang, tene hip me dewa ta te ra magawan rabo yo na, tene jopo pang tuki yo la, tene te pang ne, tene sinchi ta chegi main sampe kahong rabo, ta che guki yo re, ta te chitang tumong ka ong te se na, dikdipang ke tap re. Tene miksal ke ngaransu songha doji tipe lo la, te doji sempa gong Dorje sempa gom gupi junsin te kanti re se na, tene chitang ngaranso la, tene madapa, ngaranso madapa mare. Ngaranso madapa mare, takpa re. Ta chitang nye dipa ta dripa tenzo, hito kogi yo mare. La tenji onti se na, ngaranso nuwa madapa la tene yungi yo. Te ngaranso yapo yinpi junsin te kanti re se na, tene ngaranso ta ludang sem tenzo la te hitro tamba re ja tene yuk yor re la hitro tamba re ja te tene chitang hinka la hitro la hiwe la zu tong chu la zu ta tende yore la tene la hiwe la zu te hingi na la ye pa ta la chu la zu te lepe na la ta tanda gara zu sen nam tuk ka namba la ne ye pa ta sen ti ngo la ne yore la tene te ne ye pa la tene ngara zu lu dang sen ni ndral ne ta pardu ka kaps la tene te hitru ka la ten zu hyarung ka yore hitru ka la ten zu hyar yung junsen te kante re sen tanda ngara zu lusen ni chi ngo te hitru la zu yinpe junsen la tene te hyar ka yore te hyar yung te ngara zu madapa ma yinpa takpa yinpe junsen la tene re tene doje sempa te rijjan dupa se du hitru tamba rijja ka ngo te doje sempa tega nang duka yore tene teacher na hitru doji sempa ka nimbo tela ya yigi jabasi yindru jatamba Vajrasattva samayasi yindru jatamba yorel yindru jatamba te chitang ka doji sempa nimbo re re te ina misal ka ondo sena hla susu yino hitru ka hla jaga nimbo yinpa chana yigi tela yindru jatamba yorel
And so we need to purify ourselves of these misdeeds. We need to purify these misdeeds and obscurations. And in general, the way that we need to do this is by relying on what are called the four powers. The principle of these is to regret something, is to think, oh, that was not good. That did not turn out well. That was not good. I should not have done that. And if you think in that way, then it is easy to discard or abandon the misdeeds and the misdeeds. But if you, on the other hand, think, "Oh, that was good. That turned out okay, didn't it?" Then it doesn't. Then it is going to be very difficult it is going to be very difficult to abandon that. And so it is important that we do not take joy, that we are not pleased in our misdeeds, and that we think to ourselves, I am not going to do this again. We develop the resolve that I am not going to do this again. In the secret mantra, Vajrayana in particular, however, we also meditate upon Vajrasattva. And so the reason that we meditate upon Vajrasattva is that we ourselves are not impure. We are actually pure. We are not impure. We are not really stained in truth. The way we actually are is not stained. We appear as if we have stains, but that is just an impure appearance. Actually, in the way things actually are, we are pure. And the reason that we are pure is that our bodies and our minds are the assembly of the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities. And so there are the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities, and our bodies are the assembly of these 100 peaceful and wrathful deities. And so there are the peaceful deities who reside in our hearts. And so we have the peaceful and wrathful deities, and the peaceful deities reside in our heart. The wrathful deities reside in our brains. And so the reason that they are there, the wrathful deities, I wasn't sure that I said something funny. The wrathful deities reside in our brains. And so this is the way that our bodies are. It is the essence of how our bodies and our minds are, that we have the that we have them in our bodies and minds. And so because this is the way that, and so when we die, at the time that we die and our bodies and our minds separate, at that point the peaceful and the wrathful deities all appear. And the reason that the peaceful and the wrathful deities all appear is because our bodies are that assembly of the peaceful and wrathful deities. And so for this reason, it is said that there are like 100 families, and the essence of all of these 100 families of the 100 peaceful and wrathful deities is Vajrasattva. He is like the essence of all of these 100 families. And so when we talk about it, there are these 100 families, and then that is what Vajrasattva is. And then we recite the mantra of Vajrasattva, the Om Vajrasattva Samaya, and so forth. And as we recite this, there is a 100-syllable mantra. If you count them, Om Vajrasattva, and so forth, there are 100 different syllables. And this is because these are the seeds of each of the peaceful and the wrathful deities. And so these are like the essence of the peaceful and wrathful deities. And so in this way, the 100-syllable mantra is, the essence of Vajrasattva is said to be this 100-syllable mantra. And the essence of Vajrasattva is also these 100 peaceful and wrathful deities.
Tene tateya tetardo doji sempagom. Tene yigi jaba dana. Tene ranki sopek dikpaina ya jangtopek nibayeba. Te yendo dripa namto ngambata namto rakwatin so hitopek nibay. Yore la tene teacher na doji sempagom de la tene ta ranki dikdip jangwa. Ta ngaranzo tingense cheparji ta nyamto cheparji jilla jiwe ke parchi tenzo hewe ke tap so doji simpe gamde se tene yege jaba da tende chege yore la tene teya je ngarange no la ta je nguni didip ta song dribayon ya sak song sambata bu namto jiwe ke cherto tene doji sembala yang cherto sorwa tap doji sembala yongchar tu sorwa tapala tene doji sembe dola o yongje se tene ta chira cheng mare chena didip tha song tangune deta song sambe tene kulhon rabota nam kulhon rabochi ne ta ti yapu chong song sambe sana gatron rabochi ta tende sine didip topic ichi rabota no achi be che deta nang yore.
And so for this reason, when we meditate upon Vajrasattva and we recite the 100-syllable mantras, then it is able to purify ourselves of all the misdeeds that we have committed. And it is able to clear us of all of the coarse thoughts that we have. And so it can clear us of our misdeeds and our obscurations. And it is these misdeeds and obscurations that prevent us from, or that are the obstacles that prevent us from attaining deep holding, from attaining samadhi. And so it is important that we clear ourselves of these. And this is the method for doing this. And so as we meditate upon this and as we recite this, in the appearances that we see ourselves being purified. We see ourselves being cleansed of all of these misdeeds and obscurations. And we think that we have been purified, and so we think that this is working, that it is purifying us. And then we visualize that it pleases Vajrasattva, and that Vajrasattva then says to us, that he utters to us, that now all of your misdeeds and obscurations have been purified. Now you are cleansed of all of these stains. And so we imagine that he says that, and then we think to ourselves that this turned out well, that this is very good, and that this has very pleasing, and we rejoice in this. And so this is how we meditate upon this. We rejoice in it. We take joy in it, and in this way we generate this sort of confidence that we have purified our misdeeds and obscurations, and that is why we meditate upon the Vajrasattva.
Tene tatanda chitang doji simpagam desena yi java dana tatand dipata driba topic junsi de pe salvo ya tene ngamonda ji na ngarange tene tlatu lazo de lepenang yore tene hiu lazo de tene ndrimbenang yore tene takpa rensi lazo se ta hit la jagno ne kahi je ndrimbenang yore sinkin rabu je mato misal ke tel tonon rabu chong manyo la tene chi su songo tangdu tene tsenrik page tene namto de lepenang ne yungi yore lapate la pe tumba pe de hitu ge latso de pardo tudro ge nane da hitu ge nan suwa tardo pe salpo yung do la tene te ya tanda chitang ge ngaransu semla semta semjung ni yore la semte la number hiba tsu ji de ta rang lula ne pa indu zawa rang nyen la ne pa da tene namto te duji nga chi cha chi sena tene ta te duji nga chi cha chi sena sen namto mandawa gewe namto me gewe namto la so pa mambo je tene trogi yore la te la sen ta mara top mara peka so la duji nga chi cha chi se ge yore duji nga chi cha chi de ta lebna namto ten tro tene junsin teacher na takpa gang de la hiwa de ningan do ye pata la chuo de lebanon do ye pata tene junsin ingan do
And so this is a pretty clear explanation of why it is that we meditate upon Vajrasattva and why we recite the 100 syllable mantra. This is a clear explanation of why we meditate upon Vajrasattva and of why we recite the 100 syllable mantra. And now Rinpoche said earlier that the wrathful deities reside in our brain and the peaceful deities reside in our hearts. And this is something that he had learned earlier and that he thought about, but there didn't seem to be too much to worry about. It just seemed pretty clear. There are also some deities that reside in the throat. This is just something that he was taught about. And then later on, Rinpoche learned about the work of scientists who are examining how thoughts happen, and they see that thoughts happen in the brain. And he saw that this explanation is actually really quite similar, or it goes quite well with the explanation of all the scientists. And this is the explanation that comes out of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, the book called The Great Liberation on Hearing, literally. And it is very clearly explained in there that there are the peaceful and the wrathful deities who are reside in our hearts and our brains. And this accords very well with the explanations of scientists. And the reason for that is that we have both our mind and we have mental factors, or we have what we can call consciousness and the formations. And so our consciousness is like the 8 consciousnesses. These are our mind, or our primary mind, and these are the 8 groups of consciousness that reside in our heart center. And so this is where they are. And in our impure appearances, they appear to us as consciousness. And then we also have the 51 different formations, or the 51 different mental factors, you can call them. And these, in their impure appearances, are the thoughts that appear in our brain. And so we have different types of thoughts that seem to happen in our brain. And these are the 51 different mental formations. And so the impure appearance of them is these different formations or thoughts in our brain. And so this is how they appear in the impure aspect in our heart and in our brain. And then they appear in their pure aspect as the peaceful deities in our heart and the wrathful deities in our brains.
Tene da dige la cho tenzo cho yin bi jun sen de nam tu de la zan de wo xiu qian bu yo de la ga sa ga la nam tu cho xiu qian bu ye bi chen na la chu nam ba da tene sem de hiwa da wo yin bi chen na sem number hi ba chu ji de hiwa yin bi chen na la hiwa nam ba la yu ba de da ten de yung gi yo de la tene dige la tenzo 탐지 그 롱주 데 도지 semba 임비잖아. 드니 단다 나랑서 딕딕 장을 이체돌라 도지 semba 감 얘기 잡아다. 드니세나 드니 딕딕 장을 탑이 임바다. 텔라 드니 딕딕 장을 누바이야 봐. 다 드니엘라 드니 용이 와래.
Now the reason that the wrathful deities the reason that the thoughts are the wrathful deities is that if you think about it, all these different thoughts that happen are very strong, and they have a lot of force behind them. And so because they have that force and that strength, they appear as, in their pure aspect, as the wrathful deities. The 8 groups of consciousness, the essences of our consciousness, however, are very peaceful and quiet. And so in the pure form, they appear as the peaceful deities. And so this is why the thoughts which have strength are the wrathful deities, and the more peaceful consciousnesses are the peaceful deities in their pure form. And now, the embodiment of all of these peaceful and wrathful deities is Vajrasattva. And so to meditate upon Vajrasattva and to recite the 100-syllable mantra thus becomes a method to purify ourselves. And it is by relying upon this method of reciting the mantra and visualizing this, that we are able to purify ourselves of our misdeeds and obscurations.
Tene ta teacher na ta tanda ngunro ni nani ta jamro ta semki doji sempe gamde de chunti tangbo ta ni ba de tren hu ba la tene junsin tel tene ngaranso ta chetang chuala zendu chembo nange yore gom la mo ba chembo nange yore gom compel ton roa ke tabla tene ngunro imbe cherna ngunro de tene ngo 쭉 마주봐요 난거 대지 쭉 투반다고다 ngunro ngo 쭉 차와이나 대지 될 전주시나 be pento chimbo yore la ting hundo te tanda masar na ya hira ji yo mare kali te jain chong ni te la te pa to mu ji na misal ke ta te tanda joda jin ni ge no ne ta jo on de sina nyom to pa sin kin te gam jap ni pel gi yore jin ge on de sina ting hundo da bu ya te pa to mu ji solwa ta tinde sina ya te remji nyom to pa pel gi yore la te hundo go to na be kalba samre.
And so in this way we have the meditation on going for refuge and arousing the mind of enlightenment. And we also have the meditation on Vajrasattva, and these two are explained in the first two Dharma sessions of the text. And so these are some things that help us to be more diligent. They help us to do our Dharma practice. They help us to develop our practice. They help us to develop our meditation. If they are something that you have not yet begun, they are something that you can begin and that are very beneficial to begin and do. And they will help you develop faith and devotion, and they will increase and develop. And likewise, if they are something that you have already begun, they are something that you can be diligent about, and something that you should be diligent, something that will help you if you can be diligent about it. Now, if you have already begun this, you can do them gradually. You do not need to do them all at once, but you can do them gradually and do them in a sustained fashion. So you should try to sustain them and keep them going. And if you can do this, this is something that will be extremely beneficial. The reason that it will be so beneficial is that we have both sort of the causes and the conditions for generating deep holding, for generating meditation within our beings. And the cause of that is thinking, I am going to meditate, I am going to do this. It is that intention to meditate that is like the cause. But it is but these preliminary practices are like conditions that improve your meditation. They are like a way that help you come to your meditation. They help improve your meditation, develop your faith and devotion. And so for that reason, they are like the conditions that you need in order to develop your meditation. And so for that reason, they're really very important. If you have the opportunity to begin them, if you can begin them, then that would be very good. If you are doing them, you should be very diligent about this, and this will be very helpful.
Teni taring chutin te chamsena chutin tatanda chutin I tubarilla teni ngwa nangam naruchi.
We will leave our Dharma session here for today. We have completed the first two sessions, the first and second session of the text, and we will now recite the dedication and aspiration prayers.
Sebe